Hey everybody, today we're going to be looking at how Logic Pro for iPad and the new iPad OS 26 beta are working together. What features may enhance your Logic experience and which ones point to maybe more down the road in terms of what it's capable of. First and foremost, the main thing that we can now do is run Logic in a standalone window and resize it and even put it next to other apps on the screen and have those all open simultaneously. This is part of the new iPad OS 26, and I think it's making it closer and closer to what an iPad could be in terms of a laptop or a desktop than it's ever been. And so that's where we're going to start first and foremost, is looking at that. My number one concern about the whole part of this is that we already have such limited real estate. Logic already has so much going on that it's doubtful that I will probably ever run it like this, although there may be times that I want to have it open with some of the other tools that I might be running. So that's one thing. The next thing that I've really begun to enjoy already is the mouse looking like an arrow or changing depending on what it's doing. So if it's a resizing, then you get this little up and down arrow. So it's actually changing. It's not just a circle. It still does, for the moment in Logic at least, attach to most buttons and switch to like a square or a rectangle to show that you're attaching to the whole thing. Every once in a while on some knobs and faders, it stays an arrow, but it's a little easier to navigate and see with that. And so far I've been enjoying the new pointer. The next thing that is new with this version of iPad OS would be the menu bar. This is something we haven't really had similar to what we have in the Mac version, but now we do, although it looks like something right now is just kind of been attached to Logic without really fleshing this all out. And that, I say that because when you click on the Logic Pro menu, it gives us everything all in one. And it's great. It shows you the keyboard shortcuts, which is kind of nice. However, a lot of the other apps that are now being built up in this way, let's go into our settings, for instance. You'll see that we have our main settings, our file, our edit, our view, window menu, even help menu. And so what we're looking for with the new Logic update in the future would be to expand out the menu and give us more of that functionality. Okay, I'm going to put on the screen now one of the setups I've tested out where I'm attaching a second monitor to my iPad. And I love doing that. It gives me more real estate, although it's not a touch screen, so I can't navigate it like an iPad. But it gives me more, and it's nice to be able to have two screens open. I can have other apps on the left one and the Logic on the right, whatever. The one big difference between this so far is that we don't really have any iPad apps that allow you to have multiple windows for the same app. And so we don't currently have the functionality of having like a mixer on one screen and the rest of the main window on the other screen. And so I feel like that would be such a natural progression, perhaps down the road with a future version of iPad OS is giving us the ability to have an app have additional windows that you can spread across screens and really take advantage of that. I think that's one of the last things that's missing in terms of the foundational interface of the Logic for iPad. Of course, there's other things missing. We don't have a score editor. We don't have like a detailed flex editor. There's a lot of things that we don't have in there, but I'm talking just about, being able to run this in an interface. If we could spread it across two screens, I would use it on this version a lot more than I am currently. And so that's just something that I'm thinking about for the future and hoping for, is that we get that ability to have one app, multiple windows across multiple screens, and give us all of that real estate to be able to be more efficient with it. We do have some additional audio functionality with the new version of iPad OS, but because most of what we've been doing up to this point with iPad version of Logic is actually setting the audio drivers inside Logic itself, I don't think we have to really worry about that too much. Because I think that we're not going to be using those as often. We're going to rely on interfaces that are connected directly to Logic. and then setting those things inside here. So it may be that we come through and are using some other interface in this place and setting our buffer size and all of that directly on the app rather than in the operating system, which is a common thing. But those other audio features are great for other apps which maybe don't have such a sophisticated version of what we have in Logic, where you can actually set your hardware and all of that here. It's actually nice we can still come through and change some of these things independently of each other, which is kind of nice. Okay, is this a good thing? I think it's a great thing in the sense that we're getting a better operating system for Logic. The file browser is updated. We're going to be able to use that a little bit better. I still don't know the exact depth of how much we're going to be able to run projects off of external hard drives or even store our library on an external drive. Those are questions that we're going to see as these things continue to evolve on the iPad. Then we're able to do more with what Logic can do. So I feel like in some ways, these type of updates for the iPad OS are setting up Logic to be a fuller experience, one that can do the same as the Mac version. And I'm sure they're thinking about this in terms of Final Cut and other really powerful media apps that are out there. Just in terms of now, we're making this operating system more mature and more powerful, and we can actually use the power of the hardware that's built onto these iPads. I hope this was helpful. Look at this. It is working. I haven't had any crashes with Logic. I haven't had any issues with it. I'm still going to be running it in full screen mode most of the time, just because it's ridiculous to think that we should make this interface even smaller. But it is nice to know that this is currently in a state that the basic set of what Logic on the iPad offers is working with the newer version, the beta, that will continue to develop over the summer and into the fall. Great. Let me know if you have any questions or would like to see anything demoed in the comments, and we'll continue to make videos. Bye, everybody.